Hey guys, thanks for stopping by the channel. So I'm just gonna do a short video review of Resident Evil Village. Just a heads up, there will be spoilers in this, and stick with it and we'll start the review now. So starting off with, I didn't play the original Resident Evil Biohazard, so I don't really know how that story interlinks with this one, but the way that this goes, you start off with the main character, Ethan Winters, and eventually what happens, you're kind of going through the house putting your kid to sleep, and then Chris Redfield and a bunch of his goons like break through the door. They end up shooting Maya, which is your wife, basically knocking you out, kidnapping you and your daughter, and transporting you to some facility. Along the way, the car gets like toppled over, and you get out of it, and you end up in this strange village that's consumed by crazy people. As you're working your way through this village, solving the puzzles, you encounter 5 bosses, like the main bosses. So there's Lady Demetrius, some doll thing, Donna something, some gross looking hunchback, and then Heisenberg, who is one of the most annoying, I think, bosses in the whole game. And then there's also Mother Miranda, who is essentially the one that's responsible for your daughter being kidnapped from the vehicle when it gets toppled over. As you work through, so you start off, you have to go through the mansion and beat Lady Demetrius. I think I'm saying her name right, I don't know. But she also has 3 daughters, and you have to kill them too. So they're kind of like mini bosses as you're working your way through. She's a tough one to beat, surprisingly. At the end, you end up fighting her up on top of a tower. And keep in mind, throughout the whole game, you are running limited amounts of ammo. Like, it's hard, actually, and expensive to get ammo, so you have to use it very sparingly. But once you make your way through her, you move on to the next section of the game where you have to fight the doll maker. That was probably one of the scariest parts in the whole game for me, because there's a blob looking creature that you encounter in the basement after unlocking the doll puzzle, and it just follows you around and screams and cries, and it's just nasty. But once you get through that, then you gotta go back to the main location in the village, the shrine, and then you can start putting in, there's like 4 pieces of rosemary that will take place later on in the game, but you drop that in, that'll unlock the next part, and then you can go fight the hunchback, who basically, I don't know, it's like he throws like boogers at you or something. It's gross. So you end up fighting your way through like mold, and he turns into a big fish, and you have to work your way and take him down. He actually wasn't that hard to defeat. Just stay out of the like toxic acid that he spews out of his mouth. So then after that, you get to go and encounter Heisenberg, who tries to manipulate you and trick you into siding with him to take down Mother Miranda, and then also wants to take over, her whole, whatever her end goal is, like become the ruler. But he essentially sends you down into the bowels of freaking hell underneath this factory, and you have to slowly solve each level of the factory. There's 5 levels, and you have to keep working your way through it. I found that this was the most annoying part of the whole game, because you'd solve one piece, but then at one point it actually closes doors off behind you, so you can't get into an area that you were once in. So you have to go around, finding other alternative paths. Definitely more difficult. And then once you've gone through that, oh, and by the way, the whole time you're doing this, there's a freaking machine that's like made out of a Chevy 350 V8 following you around with chainsaw blades. So you have to also watch out for that, so he doesn't grind you into bits and pieces. So after you get done with solving the puzzles, you get to go up to the main surface, and you have to fight that engine that's running around, and then you have to also fight Heisenberg after that. but you don't actually get to like fight him. It's just like a cutscene. He knocks you back down to the belly of the factory. You run into Chris again, and he kind of explains a little bit of the main story of what's going on and basically tells you to stay out of it, no your concern. Eventually he just like concedes and gives you a tank, so you get to go drive a tank around, and then you use that tank actually to fight Heisenberg, who turns into this big like metal kind of machine that just pummels the crap out of you. But if you just stick with it, take him down piece by piece, you'll get to move into the next part where it actually you get a pretty good visual of Mother Miranda. And the strange thing I found about the game is you play as Ethan, who's kind of a pansy throughout the entire game and just gets the crap kicked out of him by everything. The odd thing is he's also immortal, so you start losing limbs right away in the game. He loses 3 fingers. So he's running around, he's shooting stuff. He's only got a thumb, or actually he only loses 2 fingers, but you only have like a thumb and your ring finger and your pinky. And then after that, you go into the mansion and you get hooks thrown through your legs. The big lady in the mansion cuts your arm off. He like sticks it back on and just like twists it and stuff, pours a little bit of juice on it, and it's magically healed. But after fighting Heisenberg, you go into this cutscene where Mother Miranda literally rips your heart out and squishes it and then pours it like the blood on her face, and then you fade away and die. But once that portion's done, then it switches over and you get to play as Chris for a little bit, and that dude's like a badass. So you're given a full arsenal of weapons, and you're given, oh god, I don't even know what the specs of the weapons are, but they drop the enemy like crazy, and you just powerhouse all the way through, and you get to the, I guess, like the heart of this whole issue, and it's like a oversized baby fetus essentially, and he throws a grenade on it with a trigger, like a bomb with a trigger, and then you get to phase back, and you go back as Ethan, and you end up going up and going to the ritual site and fighting Mother Miranda, who turns into like 6 different creatures. One's a spider, one she flies, the other is like her, and yeah, it takes a little bit to get through her, but all said and done, it has a pretty good ending. It's sad in a sense because, you know, Ethan ends up finding out that he's only immortal because the mold that's spreading throughout the town is actually what's keeping him alive. And once you defeat Mother Miranda, the mold dies. Thus, he also starts like kind of falling to pieces, and he's like standing there with Rosemary in his arms and trying to walk away and survive. And he runs into Chris carries him out of the way, and he hands Rosemary off to Chris, takes the explosive charge or the detonator. He ends up basically sacrificing himself just so Rosemary and Chris can get to the ship. One of the things that I missed early on in the story, once you're playing as Chris, you also run into Mia in the site, who's held captive. She's in like a prison cell. So circling back to getting on the ship again, you end up handing Rosemary to her, and then you fly off into the sunset as a bomb goes off behind you and annihilates the entire city. I did let it play past the end credits of the game, and they do have a little follow-up video possibly leading into the next one where they showed Rosemary as like a teen, and how it almost looks like she's working with the government, and she's called away from visiting her dad's gravesite. So I figured after playing the game I should give this some kind of like formal review, like number. So I'm going to go ahead and give this like a 4 out of 5 because visually it was great, story it was great, it utilized the RTX hardware phenomenally. Yeah, hopefully Capcom can keep cranking out titles like this, and it's actually going to make me want to go back and play Biohazard now, just to kind of get into the story a little bit more and find out a little bit more about Chris and all the other, you know, characters from this game. So this is a new thing for me, just kind of testing it out, doing video game reviews. If you guys did like what you've seen, please subscribe, hit like, ding that notification icon, and leave me a comment. If you guys want to catch me live, I'm running Wednesdays and weekends over at twitch.tv/Demian. Come check me out. Thanks. Bye.